This is the North Carolina state flag, and I have been doing my research project on a military culture based on Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Fort Bragg, North Carolina was founded September 4th, 1918, and back then it was known as Camp Bragg. It was founded by North Carolinian and Confederate General Braxton Bragg. In 1922, Camp Bragg became known as Fort Bragg. 1951, Fort Bragg became home of the airborne, and in 1952, Fort Bragg became headquarters for Special Forces. With media and cultural communication, there's a lot of challenges. I have a quote from Cox from 2015. Stereotyping explores what comes to mind when a given social concept is activated, and when, how, and why one social concept brings to mind another. Understanding content, process, and structure of cognitions related to social groups is important because these cognitions form the building blocks of prejudice, discrimination, and oppression. In the media, there's a lot of negativity about these soldiers. When I looked up Fort Bragg, North Carolina today, this was the headline: Fort Bragg soldier found dead in barracks. It's devastating to hear about a lot of stuff like this, and being so close to a military community, it affects a lot of people. For example, my neighbors are both in the military. And my neighbor across the street, the husband's in the military. There's a lot of people right around here that are in the military, and stuff like this affects not only the families, but it affects the community as a whole. Soldier stereotypes. Soldiers are often known as these mean and very stern people. And it's a stereotype. While soldiers are stern and they are strict and they know what their goal is, they're not mean. And that is something that the media seems to display, is that they're mean, but they're not. Through cultural identity and value orientation, the military is focused and based on relationships. Not only do the soldiers work together on a daily basis to get jobs done, to get through their PT, and then when they get deployed, the spouses also work together. When a spouse gets deployed, there is often support groups and help groups and friends and family that support these spouses. And it's incredible. And then there is schools. Schools around here especially work with students that have parents that are deploying. And they will let them off school, and it's not a big issue. On November 11th, I attended the Veterans Day Parade in Lillington, North Carolina. There was a lot of patriotic music that was played throughout this entire event. There was also moments of silence that were held, which was really cool to see how everybody kept quiet in honor of fallen soldiers and the veterans that were there. There was a lot of crying and a lot of laughter throughout different events that were going on. And there were a lot of phrases that I'm not used to hearing between me and my friends, because I am not in the military and neither is anybody in my immediate family. But living in a military community, words like attention, salute, forward march, hurrah, battalion, sergeant, and commander are heard a lot. And while they're not words used between me and my friends, they're words used all the time around here. For nonverbal communication, silence. There's a lot of silence, whether it's for moments of silence or while the soldiers are in formation or anything like that. There's a lot of silence, and it speaks louder than words a lot of the times. Then there's stuff like PTSD. PTSD is something that affects a lot of soldiers because they see stuff that a lot of us don't see on a daily basis. I have a friend who her uncle, I believe it was, watched his best friend die in front of him. And stuff like that affects people incredibly. And I have a quote here from Brian 2015. A growing number of risk factors for suicide ideation and suicide attempts have been confirmed among military personnel and veterans. And that's scary. Because stuff like this affects people a lot. And through these suicide attempts and the PTSD, not a lot of it's verbal stuff. A lot of it could be nightmares or night terrors or insomnia. And it's not always verbal stuff that we as people who are not in the military can pick up on and realize that something's happening. For conflict styles and management, the military, a lot of their job involves conflict since they go to war. I have a quote here from Rubenfeld, 2012. Conflict resolution may require many approaches, but in most cases it involves the intervention of a third party acting as a mediator. What would therefore prompt individuals to involve themselves in a conflict in order to reduce intergroup tension? Being in the military, there's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of talk about stopping conflict. The governments for both countries that are fighting are often involved in this, and I know for over here in America, we were talking about stopping war completely. And it's just an ongoing battle between should we stop it, should we continue, we're sending more people out, we're bringing people back. And I think it's always going to be an ongoing conflict. And that's just, it seems like something we're gonna have to go through. In conclusion, by studying the military culture more closely than I have, I learned a lot about structure and discipline. And it has helped me get through this project, first of all. There's a lot of stuff that I would have never learned about, but it's really cool that I've had the opportunity to learn about these things. And it's helped me focus on this project more and be more determined to get through the different steps and strategies and stuff that we had to go through to complete this project. I learned a lot about the military culture shock. It's something that I think would affect a lot of people, especially if you did not grow up in a military culture. You're not quite sure what to expect. But I think it's very important to research and learn about the lifestyle of the military, or if you have somebody you can talk to about the military, to talk to them about it. Because it would be a big culture shock to come here from almost anywhere else. I think even for me, living in a military community, if I were to go into the military, it would be a big culture shock for me. Yeah, so that was my project, and yeah, that was military culture in Fort Bragg, North Carolina.